Everyone is looking for action.
In July 1970, Oakland A's owner Charles Finley summoned the media to talk about his new purchase, the NHL's Oakland Seals.
I want to be the first one to tell you that I know absolutely nothing about the game of hockey.
The first press conference, he's promising how great the team was going to be and how excited he was to own a hockey team. And, you know, he had all kinds of plans to market the team along with the A's. And then as soon as the camera stopped rolling, his first thing he said to his employees was, okay, how the hell do we get out of Oakland?
Meanwhile, the Seals front office was already preparing for the 1970-71 season. New players included defenseman Ron Stackhouse out of Haliburton, Ontario.
I didn't even know I'd been drafted until several weeks after it happened. I just got a letter in the mail saying that they'd drafted me and welcome to the organization and someone would be in touch with me. I had to get a map out and actually look to see where Oakland was.
In order to quickly boost their roster, the Seals did something that became routine for the franchise. They traded away next season's first-round draft pick to Montreal. In exchange, they got players that included Canadiens prospect Ernie Hickey, whose brother Bill was already in Oakland.
I was ecstatic. I mean, I was happy. I was going to be playing in the NHL. I was going to play with my brother. I was going to play with the Seals, which was an up-and-coming team. You know, I just couldn't wait.
The players' feelings about their new owner were more mixed.
Charlie O was a clown, basically, a wealthy clown.
I heard that he was colorful, that he liked to make things happen for publicity relations.
He came in and, you know, he talked to all of us and he expected a lot out of us. And he said he was going to do a lot for the team. I mean, we were behind him 100%.
The first thing Charlie Finley did was he changed the name of the team. They were the Oakland Seals.
So what names are they going to choose? Well, how about the Bay Area Seals? How about the California Seals? Oh, and then Charlie came up with the perfect one. How about the California Golden Seals? That way, they'll come across the bay from San Francisco because it's no longer the Oakland Seals. Yeah, right, Charlie.
Another major change that Charlie brought to the hockey team was the change of uniforms.
When we first got the new uniforms, we were just like, this can't be true.
And I know Charles Finley, when he bought the hockey team, tried to coordinate the California Seals to be similar to the Oakland A's and the yellow and green and white.
We had a party. All the media came. The new uniforms I thought were great.
It was distinctive. You always knew when you're watching the game, you know, which team was the Seals because they had the weird uniforms.
I thought he might have been carrying the green and gold a little too far when somewhere along the way we had our skates painted green and gold.
But even more shocking, he had the players' names added to the backs of their jerseys.
The NHL owners were considered to be pretty conservative. When they first heard that the Seals were putting names on their jerseys, they thought it would cut their sales of their programs.
Some teams demanded that Finley's Seals travel with an extra set of road jerseys without names.
I mean, he was a forward thinker. I mean, there was no question about that. And he was a promoter. He had a lot of ideas. Some of them were good and some of them weren't so good.
With a skating mule at center ice, the 70-71 season kicked off with plenty of excitement, especially for the rookies.
I'd never seen an NHL game live until I played in one. So I was a little awestruck, to say the least. I can still remember very vividly Gordie Howe coming down my side, and he's coming down on me, and I'm thinking, I gotta stop him. And so he tried to give me a bit of a fake there, and I poked at the puck, and he stepped on my stick and fell down, and it was almost like I should be saying, well, excuse me, sir, you know.
A minute 47 left in the game. The Seals lead it 2-1 over the Bruins.
Finley sought to win over his new players, opening his wallet after the team upset the Bruins in Boston.
He comes in after the game, he is so happy, and he said, boys, we're going to New York tomorrow. I'm giving each one of you $100, and we're gonna go to Gucci's. Well, I mean, everybody looked at him around, what the hell is Gucci? The next morning in New York, not one limo, but 5 limos show up to take the whole team, the trainers, everybody, to Gucci's.
I started to think, well, maybe I am in the big time a little bit here.
To get fans to come to the Oakland Coliseum, Finley unleashed a non-stop barrage of promotions.
And he had a live seal at another game. The seal actually just went out into the center of the ice and fell asleep, and that was the end of the seal. Then he had promotions like Barber Night, which basically said that any barber would get in free to the Seals game. And his thinking was barbers are always talking to people while they're cutting their hair. And if he had Barber Night and got all the barbers to talk to their customers, they would all show up at the game and increase attendance. It never really quite worked out that way.
Charlie Finley always considered himself the ultimate promoter. He really did. Now, the problem was he was promoting himself more than anybody else.
Despite having virtually no knowledge of hockey operations, Finley then began to shake up his front office.
Now, they were just starting to get some really good players, and the team seemed to have a future on the ice. He basically told both of those executives, Frank Selke Jr. and Bill Torrey, that he wouldn't honor their contracts for the salary they were making. The only deal I had with the NHL was to honor the player contracts. I don't have to honor your contracts. I didn't buy your contracts. Within a month or two, Selke was gone, back to Montreal. Torrey resigned. The only executive besides Fred Glover, the coach, that knew anything about hockey was nobody.
Well, I mean, who was going to be the hockey people running the front end of the business?
Charlie was making all the decisions. He once told me, I only went to one hockey game in my life before I bought the Seals. I said, Charlie, your team looks like it.
Bill Torrey would later become general manager of the expansion New York Islanders, building a dynasty that would win 4 straight Stanley Cups. For the Seals, their 4th season quickly went downhill.
We had a lot of confidence at the start of the year, but then we go on a 21-day road trip. We'd play 12, 14 games back to back, and it got a little tough. When you come back and you've only maybe won 1 or 2 games, your expectations are kind of deflated.
If you're a professional and you're losing like that, it's hard to take.
Things got worse when star player and captain Carol Vatney was knocked out of action due to injuries and missed nearly half the season.
We were out of it by Christmas. I just think that we didn't have the depth that a lot of teams did.
Meanwhile, attendance at the Oakland Coliseum remained disappointing.
I can remember games where I'd have 15 or 20 tickets because the guys didn't have anybody to give to, right? They were mostly all single and they live in an apartment, didn't know anybody. So I would give them to a guy that I knew at a restaurant or the grocery store and say, here, give them to somebody. We need some people in the building.
California stumbled to the worst record in the NHL. But even more devastating, Montreal then used the Seals' #1 draft pick they received before the season to snag future Hall of Famer Guy Lafleur.
I get the occasional guy come up to me and say, I just read in the hockey magazine the worst trade ever. And then they'll say, well, you got traded for Lafleur. Oh, geez. I go, yeah, you're right. At that time, I thought I was as good as him, but you know what? That's part of how they wheel and deal, and I had no say in it.
What no one could foresee was that the Seals' future was about to get much brighter.